I still remember the words she used when she left. "You're just too much right now. Too sad. Too heavy. I can't carry both of us." It wasn't a surprise, not really. But it still hit harder than I expected. A little over a month earlier, my older brother, Daniel, died in a car accident. One of those late-night, wrong place, wrong time kind of tragedies. Black ice, a sharp turn, and a missed guardrail. Just like that, he was gone. No goodbyes. No final moments. Just silence. Daniel was everything I admired: outgoing, driven, the guy who always knew what to say and how to make people laugh. I was the quiet one. The thinker. He was the guy who took up space in a room. I was the one who stood back and let him shine. And I never minded that, not once. He was my best friend, the one person I knew had my back no matter what. When he died, something inside me cracked. It wasn't a dramatic breakdown. Just this heavy, constant fog. I stopped laughing. I stopped caring about the little things. I still went to work, still paid my bills, still nodded through conversations. But it was like I was sleepwalking through life. That's when Rachel started pulling away. We'd been together for nearly 2 years. She was smart, polished, the kind of person who always had a plan. A bit of a perfectionist, maybe, but I admired her drive. She liked things to feel in control. And I guess I'd always been a safe bet for her, steady, predictable. Until I wasn't. At first, she tried to help. She brought dinner over, suggested grief counseling, even tried to get me to go hiking, something Daniel and I used to do. But her patience had a time limit. And I had nothing left to give. Then, one night, she sat me down on my own couch, the one we picked out together from some overpriced showroom, and told me she couldn't do it anymore. That my grief was swallowing me whole and she couldn't let it pull her under, too. What stung wasn't just that she left, it was how easily she did it. Like my sadness was inconvenient. Like losing my brother had made me someone unlovable. After she walked out, I didn't cry. I didn't even yell. I just sat there, staring at the door she closed behind her. The silence felt louder than ever. The days after that blurred together. I kept my head down at work, avoided conversations, and lived off instant noodles and coffee. My apartment, once cozy, now felt more like a storage unit I happened to sleep in. My phone stayed silent. No text from Rachel. Not even a "How are you?" Not a single call. She had moved on. Just like that. A few people checked in. My mom called every few days, offered to come stay for a while, but I always told her no. I didn't want anyone seeing me like that. Not even her. I didn't have the energy to talk. I barely had the energy to get out of bed. I'd replay old voicemails from Daniel just to hear his voice again. Some nights, that was the only thing that kept me from completely unraveling. Looking back, I can't blame Rachel for wanting something easier. Something lighter. But I can blame her for how quickly she left, for the way she treated my grief like a switch I was supposed to flip off. Grief doesn't work like that. About 3 months passed. I was surviving, I guess. Not living. Not healing. Just existing in this numb, slow-motion world where every day felt the same. I thought I'd hit rock bottom. But I didn't know what was coming. And I sure as hell didn't expect her to come back, not after everything, and especially not after the money. I thought I'd hit rock bottom. Turns out, I was just standing at the edge, and what came next changed everything. A few days after what would have been Daniel's 32nd birthday, I got a call from a law office in Chicago. At first, I thought it was a scam. I'd barely had the energy to open my mail lately, let alone answer strange phone numbers. But something about the voicemail, the tone, the way they mentioned Daniel's full name, made me call back. I remember sitting on the floor, back against the fridge, phone pressed to my ear as the lawyer explained that Daniel had left behind a will. And in that will, he named me as his sole beneficiary. Not partial. Sole. I didn't even know Daniel had anything to leave behind. He worked in real estate, lived fairly modestly, always said he preferred saving over splurging. I figured he had a few thousand stashed away. Maybe a used car, some electronics, sentimental stuff. I was wrong. Daniel had built something. Quietly, steadily. While I was buried in spreadsheets and clocking 9 to 5s, he was making moves. Investments. Rental properties. A savings portfolio that looked like it belonged to someone twice his age. After everything was settled, I was left with just under $2.8 million. I stared at the number for hours, like my brain couldn't process it. I had never even seen 6 digits in my bank account, let alone 7. My heart pounded, and not in the good way. It felt wrong somehow. Like this wasn't a gift, it was a burden. A prize for surviving what I'd lost. I didn't go on a spending spree. I didn't buy a car or book a vacation. I just sat with it. I didn't tell anyone. Not even my mom. It didn't feel real. Then, 3 days later, I got a text from Rachel. "Hey, been thinking about you. Can we talk?" I stared at my screen, almost laughing. The timing was so on the nose it could have been a bad movie script. I didn't respond. 2 hours later, she followed up with a longer message. "I heard about Daniel's passing. I'm so sorry. I know I didn't handle things well back then. I miss you and I'd really like to catch up if you're open to it." No mention of the fact she hadn't reached out for 3 months. No apology for walking out when I was at my lowest. Just vague regret and a hint of nostalgia. Wrapped up in just enough guilt to make her look like the bigger person. Again, I didn't reply. But that wasn't the end of it. The next day, I saw her name pop up as a call. I let it ring. She left a voicemail, said she wanted to check in, that she was in town for the weekend, and maybe we could grab coffee and talk. I sat there listening, wondering if she knew. If she had somehow heard about the money. Maybe a friend of a friend. Someone in my family. I hadn't told anyone directly, but small towns and nosy people have a way of stitching rumors together. And the minute something like an inheritance hits the grapevine, people you haven't heard from in years suddenly remember your birthday. Still, part of me wanted to believe she didn't know. That maybe she was just feeling guilty. That maybe something about losing Daniel made her reflect on what we had, on how quickly she gave up. So I met her. At a neutral spot. A coffee shop halfway between our apartments. I got there first. When she walked in, my stomach did a weird flip I wasn't expecting. She looked the same. Hair pulled back. Smart coat. That slight bounce in her step that used to make me feel like everything was going to be okay, even when it wasn't. She smiled like nothing had happened. Like we hadn't been strangers for months. Like she hadn't walked away from me when I was barely holding it together. "Hey," she said, like it was just another Tuesday. "Hey," I replied. Short. Careful. We sat. Small talk. She asked how I was doing. Said she was sorry again about Daniel. I gave short answers, watching her eyes the whole time. I didn't offer much. Just enough to keep the conversation alive. Then, halfway through her drink, she dropped it. "So, I heard from Madison that your brother left you something?" I didn't react. I just stared at her. She smiled, sheepishly maybe. I wasn't snooping. She just mentioned it when I saw her at the gym. Said it was a lot. There it was. The real reason she came back. I felt something harden in my chest. Not anger. Not sadness. Just confirmation. That ugly, quiet truth I already suspected. "You didn't reach out after the funeral," I said, keeping my voice even. "Or when I stopped showing up to work. Or when I stopped replying to anyone. But now that there's money involved, suddenly I'm on your mind?" She blinked, caught off guard. "That's not fair." "No," I said, leaning back. "What's not fair is being left when you're drowning, and then having someone come back when you've made it to the shore, just because you've got something in your pocket." Rachel didn't say anything for a few seconds. Just stirred her drink and looked down at her hands. "I didn't come here for money," she mumbled. "Then what did you come here for?" She didn't answer. And honestly? She didn't need to. Because I already knew. She thought I was still the same guy from 3 months ago, broken, lonely, easy to manipulate. But she was wrong. I had changed. I wasn't better, not completely. Grief still sat with me every day. But I wasn't that hollow shell she walked out on. I had something now that I didn't have back then. Clarity. She finally spoke again. I just thought maybe we could try again. Start over. I miss you. I looked at her and saw someone I used to love. Someone I trusted. Someone I thought would be there when life got hard. But now, she just looked like a stranger in familiar clothes. I stood up. I think I needed to see you again to realize I'm better off without you. Her face fell. Seriously? Seriously. I left her sitting there with her half-finished coffee and a stunned expression, and for the first time in months, I walked away with my head high. But I should have known it wasn't over. Because people like Rachel? They don't take no for an answer, especially when they think you're finally worth chasing again. I thought that would be the end of it. I thought walking away from that coffee shop was the final chapter in whatever twisted story Rachel and I had left. But a week later, she showed up at my front door, holding a pie. A pie. I opened the door wearing sweatpants and yesterday's t-shirt, still groggy from a night of restless sleep. And there she was, standing like she belonged there, giving me that same carefully practiced smile. I baked this. Thought you might want some company. I didn't say anything. Just stared at the pie like it was radioactive. She cleared her throat. I know I surprised you. But I meant what I said. I've been thinking about you a lot. About us. I didn't move. Rachel, we talked. I told you where I stand. I know. I don't think that's really how you feel. I think you're still hurting. And I get it. But I also think we had something real, and I don't want to walk away from that just because things got hard. Hard. That word echoed in my head like a joke. Things didn't just get hard. My brother died. My life collapsed. I was falling apart, and she left. Now she wanted to rewrite the narrative like we just drifted, or had a rough patch. I didn't invite her in, but she pushed past me anyway and walked into the living room like she owned the place. I should have stopped her. But part of me, the people-pleasing, conflict-avoiding part, froze. She sat on the couch, set the pie on the coffee table, and started talking like nothing had ever happened. Asked about my job, which I had quit, mentioned how she was looking into yoga teacher certifications, said we should maybe take a weekend trip together. Just to clear the air. Like a vacation could fix betrayal. Eventually, I told her I needed space. Asked her, more politely than I should have, to leave. She did. But that was just the beginning. Over the next few days, I started getting messages. A few a day at first. Then more. Texts. Missed calls. Instagram DMs. She even sent me a playlist she titled, For When You Remember Us. I didn't answer any of it. She started commenting on my posts, even the ones from years ago. Then she messaged my mom. Told her she was worried about me. And thought I was spiraling again. My mom, bless her, didn't buy into it, but she was concerned enough to call me and ask what was going on. Rachel was playing the long game now, the manipulative, guilt-wrapped in care kind of game. One night, I came home to find a small package on my doorstep. No name. Just my first name in handwriting I recognized instantly. Inside was a framed photo of us from a trip to San Diego. We were smiling, arms wrapped around each other, wind blowing through our hair. There was a post-it stuck to the frame. Don't forget this version of us. We were real. It made my skin crawl. I didn't even realize how tightly I was gripping the frame until my knuckles turned white. I tossed it in the trash. I knew what she was doing. It wasn't about me. It was about control. About unfinished business. About the money. She wasn't subtle. She'd ask little questions each time we spoke, when I caved and picked up once or twice. So what are you going to do with all of it? You thinking of buying a house? Must be nice to not stress about rent anymore. She said them like casual conversation. Like she wasn't carefully fishing for details. Then came the ultimatum. It was a Thursday evening. I was watching TV, finally starting to feel something close to normal again. She called. I ignored it. She called again. And then she texted. If you don't want to be with me, fine. But I know you're not okay. And I'm not just going to sit back while you waste what Daniel left you. He would have wanted someone to help you, someone who actually cares. That one hit a nerve. I called her back. What the hell are you doing? I snapped. She didn't flinch. Trying to help you. By what? Harassing me? Showing up uninvited? Manipulating my family? I'm not manipulating anyone, she said, her voice rising. I love you, Matt. And I made a mistake leaving when I did. But I'm here now, and I'm not going to let you push me away because you're scared. Scared? I laughed. No, Rachel. I'm done. That's what this is. No, you're not, she said. You're just overwhelmed. You don't know how to handle grief or money or real emotion. I do. We can get through this. I cut her off. You didn't want to get through anything when I was barely able to get out of bed. When I stopped talking. When I couldn't eat. You left. You said I was too much. Too broken. And now? Now that there's a few $1 million in the picture, you're suddenly Florence Nightingale? Silence. I could hear her breathing. Then she said it. So that's what this is about. You think I'm some kind of gold digger? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Because silence is loud when someone knows they're caught. I came back because I care, she insisted. Because I realized how much you meant to me. No, I said, finally calm. You came back because now I'm worth something to you. You came back because you saw a future that looked comfortable. And I'm not going to be your retirement plan. Then I blocked her. Phone. Socials. Everything. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe. But something told me Rachel wasn't finished. And I had no idea just how far she'd go to claw her way back into my life, or how close I'd come to losing myself all over again. A few weeks passed, and Rachel never stopped trying to reach me. She'd show up at my office, leave notes on my car, send texts, all of it. She didn't care how many times I ignored her or blocked her. Every attempt felt more desperate than the last. But nothing she said mattered anymore. Every message, every visit, was a reminder that I had to protect myself. I wasn't going to let her walk back in just because I was suddenly valuable in her eyes. But that didn't make it easy. The guilt still gnawed at me. I'd loved her. I'd trusted her. And for a long time, I couldn't shake the idea that maybe, just maybe, if I let her in just a little, things could go back to the way they were. It's hard to let go of someone you thought you'd spend your life with. The love you felt for them doesn't just disappear, it lingers. But I wasn't the same person I was when she left. And this time, I wasn't going to let my feelings cloud the truth. One evening, I finally ran into Rachel again. It was at a small cafe down the street from my apartment. I'd been out running errands, trying to put the final touches on my brother's estate, when I spotted her. She was sitting at a corner booth, staring down at her phone, tapping her fingers against the table. I almost turned and walked away, but she saw me before I could. Her face lit up when she recognized me, and she immediately stood up, walking toward me. I was rooted to the spot, torn between the anger I still felt and the strange pull of nostalgia. She opened her arms, like we were still in the relationship where hugs and kisses were the norm. I stiffened, stepping back. Her eyes faltered. Matt, she said softly. I've been trying to reach you. You don't have to do this alone. I shook my head. Rachel, I'm not alone. I've got my family. I've got my friends. And I've got my life back in order. What I don't need is you manipulating me again. I don't need someone who left when things got hard, only to come back when they think they can benefit from it. Her face twisted for a moment. Then, with a deep sigh, she spoke again, quieter, almost pleading. I made a mistake, Matt. I was scared. I didn't know how to handle what you were going through. I shouldn't have left. I was wrong. I swallowed hard, the words choking me. Yeah, you were. But that doesn't mean you get a free pass to come back whenever it's convenient for you. She took a step closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. I've thought about it every day since we broke up. I want to make it right. I want to help you. I felt something cold settle in my chest. You don't owe me anything, Rachel. But I'm not going to let you make me feel guilty for what you did. You left me when I was at my lowest. And now I see who you really are. I see what this is about. I took a deep breath. I've been through hell, Rachel. And I'm finally starting to see the light again. But not with you in my life. I'm sorry, but this isn't going to work. She stood there, looking at me like I was a ghost. You don't mean that. You can't. After everything we've been through, after everything I've tried to do. I'm not your second chance, Rachel, I said firmly. You don't get to write the script for my life anymore. The silence hung heavy between us. She didn't say another word, just nodded slowly, like she'd already prepared herself for this moment. And I knew. That was it. It wasn't a huge dramatic scene. There were no screams, no last-minute confessions. It was a simple truth. A door closing. I watched her leave without another word, the weight of her presence lifting from me. For the first time in weeks, I felt light. I wasn't carrying around that toxic mess anymore. It wasn't just about Rachel anymore. It was about me, my healing, my future. I was ready to move forward. I had been given this chance, not because of Rachel, but because of my brother's legacy, his sacrifice. And now it was up to me to live the life I deserved. A few months passed. I focused on my work, on taking care of the estate, and on rebuilding my life piece by piece. It wasn't easy, but I was finally starting to feel like myself again. And in a way, I owed part of that to Rachel's departure. It forced me to confront the darkness I'd been hiding from, the grief, the depression, and the need for validation that I had been chasing. I didn't need to prove anything to anyone. I didn't need someone to save me. The strength I was looking for had been inside me all along. Rachel never contacted me again after that day at the cafe. And honestly, I was grateful. I didn't need to look back anymore. As for the inheritance, I used the money wisely, invested in things that mattered. I helped out family when I could, but I stayed grounded. I wasn't going to let sudden wealth define me, just like I wasn't going to let the past dictate my future. I don't regret cutting her off. Sometimes, we need to make tough decisions to protect ourselves, even if it hurts. The hard part wasn't just letting go of Rachel. It was letting go of the idea that I needed her. That I needed anyone to complete me. I learned to be okay on my own. In the end, I realized that my brother's death wasn't just a tragedy. It was a wake-up call. A reminder that life is short, and sometimes, the people who claim to love us are only there when it's convenient for them. I'd survived. I'd grown. And no matter what came next, I was ready for it, alone, but stronger than ever.